The marriages in China are declining. Why? They're not made in heaven, right? The Chinese heaven is not good enough to sustain marriages. And so far, I have been honestly reading very serious articles on demography of China and all that from Western sources, which don't give you a realistic view of what's happening there. We don't know. We don't get the pulse of it. And when I was reading Guancha, I came across this article and I thought I must share it with you and then club it with my own analysis. Right, here we go. You know, for the first time this year, in fact, this year, the marriages have just dipped. You see the end where it has gone? It's the lowest in the past 40, 50 years, number of marriages in China. This is okay. And this is where, just 6 point, let's see the figures so that you have a look at it closely. Okay. Just 6 million marriages in 24. In 10 years, the number of marriages in China have halved. Near new low in 40 years, I told you that earlier. Year on year, from last year to this year, it's gone down by 20%. Last year, it was something in the region of 88 million. This year, it's down to 6 million. Why? People say house house rentals are high, prices are high, pressures of life are high, and there's no money. And what's more interesting, 30 to 35% of these people get divorced. These are facts. These are facts which I have just picked from their statistics. Just think of a nation, 6 million get married. Out of 6 million, 20 million, one third get divorced, or 2 million get divorced. They'll not have kids. So where is this nation going? You can have Roberts and all that. Where is this nation going? Yeah, it is in this context I came across this article. Of course, the original article is in Chinese. I must explain it to you. He says, it's more troublesome to lower the marriage rate. I mean, that's a translation of Chinese, whatever that phrase is, but in a translation, this is what it gave me. And I took it at face value. I couldn't understand what the heading meant. But the interesting thing is this. This is going to might be a little academic, but I have to read through this and explain to you what the Chinese thinking is. This is looking deep into their thinking. He says, philosophical. This is I just translated it, picked sentences off that article, and I'm showing you. The essence of marriage is that two people need to continue to pay for the next generation. Just think, he's talking of payment for the next generation. Constant trouble is the norm, and happiness, warmth are episodes. That means happiness is episodical, problems are there, and you're looking at when two people get married, the society is looking at payment, not responsibility and all that. And he says this is a three-piece set of middle-aged bankruptcy. This is a thinking which I have not heard anywhere. I have not heard in India. It zapped me. He says what happens when you get married? A lot of car loans, housing loans, and large children's expenses. This is the analysis. This is the analysis in one of their major news media, vernacular news channels. Okay. And this gives you the mentality of people there. Okay. That's the more important thing. Middle-aged people are the most miserable as per this author. Middle-aged people with children and houses are the most miserable has become a science. And that conclusion is that no marriage, infertility, and no children is the best That is, no marriage, infertility, and no children is the best choice for the ordinary people. That's the way they think. In agricultural, he says, agricultural society or pre-modern society, women would get married, otherwise they can't survive. But in traditional society, men are attached to women. Without men, women can't survive. But that's not so. China is now a reformed society. He says, with the rise of women's employment, marriage is no longer necessary. More and more women in the workplace have received higher education. They have a very harsh view of marriage. They would be rather alone for a lifetime than make do with marriage. And then, of course, urbanization around the world, without exception, leads to a decline in marriage and the fertility rates. So he is very clearly laid out the socio-economic conditions surrounding marriage. Okay. Further, this is actually it shook me. The older generation view of the marriage is living together, then to meet emotional needs. Either if you get married, you have to live together. It doesn't matter whether you love each other or not. But younger generation tend to think that purpose of marriage is to make themselves live a better life. They want Kuchi life. And it says they can't achieve that happiness, they're not prepared to get married, they're prepared to stay alone. Unmarried rate of women with a monthly income of more than 20,000 yuan is 39%. If you have 20,000 yuan, salary, 40% of Chinese women don't get married, even at the age of 35. Beyond 35, anyway, no one gets married there. The unmarried rate of women in the countryside is 18%. And again, the proportion of double income, no kids among married people is 27%. And the national average is only 4%. That goes, of people who are married without children is only 4%. I know that part, but the other one is interesting. Okay. What else he says? He says many people have a philosophical idea. He's quoted a chap called Yi Wenji, who sees, their philosopher. He says the world is a big prison and bringing children into the world is suffering. This is the thinking they have. In the past, he says people lived in a closed societal circle, and the societal circle put pressure on these people, on the unmarried and the infertile people. But once urbanization has taken place, that societal circle has broken, acquaintances have disintegrated. There's no pressure on people to produce children. And combine it with all that, no children. Simple, no children, no marriages. This is the thinking. And he's given this slide out and this thing, which is all in Chinese. I couldn't make much of it. The top curve is very simple. That gives you the number of marriages which have gone down, which approximates to the earlier one, which I showed you. But the other yellow one, I couldn't decipher. Right? I couldn't decipher, so I thought I must be honest in what I can't decipher. See, look at this. Their economy is going down. That's a cartoon. So is that marriage rate. And if that marriage rate and the economy, you see the correlation between the two. So when I say that economy is going down and people laugh at me and people, especially those chaps from China who think I'm an idiot. Well, you see this. See the correlation. It is absolutely right. And then let's look at the larger population issues. We all know this graph. We've been seeing it for a long time. But you look at this. This is the current. Its fertility rate has dropped to 1.09. And 1.9 is or 2.1 is actually the ideal replacement rate. This has gone below that. In Shanghai, it is 0.6. All policies, their incentives are all weak. They are not interested. This is something which I got out towards the end of December. All this data. correlated to that article, which is just about 1 week back. You see the correlation. Their population will never this thing. At this point of time, even maintaining at 1 for China is not possible. Okay, what's the childbirth and the cost? The cost of having children is too high, and the benefits are too low. Why? It says it takes 20 years for a child to become, a taxpayer. Till then, the child is a burden on the society, and debt-ridden governments can't pay off, can't give incentives for childbirth, and the child is a burden on the parents. Okay. Then, of course, women who take maternity leave face unfair treatment. It's not there anywhere, but it's a practice. They're not given. And then, what's more, if you are in the childbearing age, and if you are likely to if you get married, uh, a woman doesn't get a job. So somehow they convey to that woman, don't get married, because we can't pay you incentives which the state wants us to pay. The state can't pay, so it has forced local business people to say, you will bear the expenses of child bearing and child rearing. And the local, businessmen are not employing such ladies. Either you have a baby beforehand, then you join me. I don't have to then subsist on you. Okay, so this is how it is. And local governments are afraid to publish real data. So whatever is coming out from China is largely fake. You can't. The actual scene might be even worse, even far worse than what is being reported. Then what's the cost compared to others? It is 6.3 times more than China's per capita GDP for cost for rearing a child. In Australia, it is 2 point some twice. In France, it's 2.4 or 2.24. In USA, it's 4.11. In Germany, it's 3.6. So the cost of raising a child in China is the highest in the world. So why would they go in for children? If they don't go in for children, their economy is going down at a rate which we can't imagine. And people say, oh, we can make robots and all that. Already there are problems which are coming out which say these guys who have robots are kicking out people and unemployment is increasing. You have to understand there are two Chinas we are dealing with. One is a rich China, which is the state, assertive China, and Xi Jinping's China, which wants to make Xinjiang or Xiong'an and things like that, ghost cities. Those dreams are different. They are spending millions and billions on infrastructure, which doesn't give them any returns. With great dreams. There is a real China which is struggling, which is not coming to terms with its own society. It's happening. And I've been talking of this. Every year I talk of this, the situation is just getting worse. Okay. This again from that earlier thing. You must read it. That earlier analysis from Guancha. He says, this is about pensions. Okay. This is about pensions. 7% have an average monthly income pension of more than 6,000 yuan. Only 7%. The rest have less than 6,000 yuan. So what is 6,000 yuan? It's about 40,000 a month. That's it. I think it's about 7,000. It's somewhere between 6 and 7 rupees. Right? So 40,000. Average monthly pension of retired employees in the middle level is about 2,000 yuan. That's 38% get only 2,000 yuan, who are retired employees. That's 14,000 rupees. Remaining 55% of urban and rural residents are mainly 171 million in rural areas. Their average monthly pension of the elderly is 223 yuan. That's it. Just think, what is 223 yuan? 1500 rupees, 1600 rupees. There's no pension. If there's no pension, how will you spend? There's no consumption. With this kind of a thing and the old age people going up, you think China will consume? You think their economy will ever this thing? It will never happen. Then the next question is very important, which he put. He says, why is the saving rate of Chinese people so high? Okay. He says half of China's non-agricultural employment are migrant workers. Vast majority of migrant workers' pension is only 200 yuan. How can they save? Migrant workers with 200 yuan pension, how can they save? Or rather, how you cannot save? He says, whatever money they have tomorrow, today, they'll save. Firstly, if there's an old chap, he can't save. But today, if you're a migrant worker, right? If today you're a migrant worker, okay, and whatever you're getting, you know tomorrow your pension is only going to be 200 yuan. So you will save. Why will you consume? When you know that the cost of medical equipment, your old age medical expenses, you don't have a house as a migrant worker, you have to go wherever you have to go. So you'll save, you'll not spend. This is the truth. There's no employment, which he says, there are no children being born, there are no pensions are not there. You see the demographic effect which is happening. And this fellow called Yap, he's yapping. Okay. Right. And last year, towards the end of last year, Xi Jinping came and admitted in public that there's a problem of demography. And this is what he says. Okay. He says, let me again, so that you see it. He says, he's defended the old policies, past birth control policies were correct and effective. They were correct, we don't know, but effective they were. They have completely finished off the demography of China. Right. What does he want to do? He says it eased pressure on resources and environment as well as post-economic development. That's what happened earlier. But hereafter, he's admitted, he says now the labor force is reduced. There's a weaker consumer and investment momentum. This is Xi Jinping talking. This yap fellow, he can keep talking what he wants. He says we have to work to maximize benefits while avoiding harm. This is a good politician. And he also admits that pace of population transition is fast. The next important thing, population decline has come earlier than expected. This is important. This population decline was to come in the period between 30 and 35. Even then they felt, no, birth rates will be about 1.7 and slowly will transit. They lied to themselves. Even Xi Jinping is lying. The whole country has lied. It's come 10 years ahead with the population, we've seen the fertility rates. And he says it follows the path of modernization, development, and all that. But no, whatever they've done earlier, they're reaping the benefits of this. Right? Okay. Right. It's come 5 years earlier than what was predicted by the United Nations. This is the official thing, official what the United Nations. But I think it's come much earlier. And what's interesting is this population fall was predicted 10 years ago, not now, 10 years ago, 2014. If you go back in 2011 12, 11, 12, there's a report called China 2030. It was done by the State Council of China and World Bank, and both of them signed on it. One of the things which they've said in that World Bank report is that population decline will happen. And what's worse for China, they don't have any historical experience to deal with a population that is aging fastest in the human history. There's no background. There's no. You see, most of us, when you go through economic slump or financial difficulty and all, you have past models. People talk of Japanification of China. There's a model of Japan. There's a model of housing slump or housing bubble. There's a model in USA. There's a model in Spain. There's a model in Brazil. But what's happening in China, as far as demography is concerned, there is no model. They don't know what to do with it. Other countries will now know how to handle this because the rate of decline is so fast. That's the point. So there will be social issues of inadequate pension, insufficient health care. Okay, nurseries have started turning into old age homes, into nursing homes. There's no insurance benefit. There are protests in China because of this. There are no people. There are no working age population. It's all going down, right? So it's a bad scene. It's a bad scene for China. I have no doubt about it. You know, the guys who are trying to troll us can say what he wants. Sorry, the guys who want to troll us can say what they want and whatever it is. But the fact is, declining marriages in China are not made in heaven. Declining marriages in China are taking China to hell. Now, with this, I'll take on questions and we'll